Hey, I'm Mike.
Hey, I'm Ethan.
Hey, I'm Not the Honeybees.
I watched the first half of What's the Matter with Helen?
I watched the second half of What's the Matter with Helen.
And I've watched all of What's the Matter with Helen.
And this is the other half.
Shelly Winters' Wonderland.
Welcome everyone to the last episode of Shelly Winters' Wonderland, and we have on the podcast the reason for the season, Not the Honeybees. Honey, how you doing?
Hey, hi. I'm so happy to be here. This is a dream come true.
We watched two other movies previous with Shelly Winters, and you were like, one, her name is Shelly Winters. Her
Not
name
Auntie
is,
Roo.
Yeah, her name is not Auntie Roo.
I mean, if I can set the record straight of what happened, because I remember best. But
Please do.
I do want to say, for those of you listening, Ethan and Mike have done complete What's the Matter with Helen cosplay. Mike is dressed up with platinum blonde hair,
of course,
eyebrows pencil thin, and Ethan looks like a middle-aged woman about to have a nervous breakdown, and it is incredible. I'm in awe. I'm so
Let
happy.
me tell you, this moo is just so nice in the wintertime.
Look, we all have types, okay? I am a Debbie Reynolds type. And Ethan, you're more of a Shelly Winters type.
Well, it's the conservative vein. I get it. Sure. Yeah. All right.
But yes, thank you for pointing that out, honey. So tell us a little bit about the context of all this.
So it was Who Slew Auntie Roo, which I had, I think, seen like a few months prior to, and I had just discovered your podcast, and you watched it, and it was so fun because no one talks about that movie, and you just kept saying like Auntie Roo, she's Auntie Roo, and I just was like, she has 2 Academy Awards. Her name is Shelly Winters, and then you watched The Poseidon Adventure, where she earned her 3rd Academy Award nomination, and you were just like, oh, I loved when Auntie Roo swam. I loved when Auntie Roo was doing this and that. And I was like, this is not proper. Like, this woman has made 30,000 movies. She's Shelly Winters.
Yeah. And she's won all these awards. Like, earned them, you know?
2 Academy Awards. That's a hard feat. Like, ask Annette Bening. She can't do one. No, and I just was like, I pitched to Mike about 2 years ago, probably. I was like, you need to do...
calling me out how long it took for us to get around to doing this.
Shelly Winters' Wonderland. Here's like 20 movies. Like, I gave you like 30 movies, and we narrowed it down to 4.
To these 4, yeah. None of which she won an Academy Award for.
No, not at all. Well, we already saw one that was like that. We wanted to see other bits.
We'd seen one. There was another one that I was like, I don't want to watch that. That sounds depressing. It was
the Anne Frank one, right?
Anne Frank one.
Yeah,
I'm like, that seems too depressing. I don't want to cover that at the podcast. That is what I'd rather cover is What's the Matter with Helen?
Back when movies had the best names, they really should bring back this naming style, I think. Like, What's Up with Spider-Man or whatever, you know? Like, I think that'd be a really good one.
What's Up with Spider-Man? Obviously, this must be some kind of reference to Who Slew Auntie Roo, both of which have names that are questions about a woman.
Well, they're both... What I learned in watching this, again, is they're both directed by the same director, who was
didn't
gay.
know that.
Yeah, and they were made in the same year.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
It all comes back. You know, we kind of completed... I feel like we completed the loop.
Yeah,
like, I think this is it.
I didn't think it would be intentional. I didn't think it was intentional, but it really was.
It's
fate.
all coming together. Yeah, it's truly... So shall we jump into the beginnings of... What's the Matter with Helen? I was going to call it Auntie Roo.
Oh, no, it's still going. This was supposed to cure you, Mike.
I know. I respect Shelly Winters now, though.
You're coming out of Winter Wonderland. You're out of hibernation.
Right.
I get it. You're back
I'm waking
to
up,
Auntie Roo.
and I'm like, back to Auntie Roo.
Mm-hmm.
The movie starts out with so much newsreel footage, so much, like to the point it's like there's FDR and he's doing a fucking like speech, and then there's like Eleanor Roosevelt, she's doing a fucking speech, and it's like, when are we gonna get the fuck? And I was like, is this the wrong movie? Like, is this just like a collection of old like newsreel footage? And then all of a sudden they talk about this woman who was murdered by 2 men. They are sentenced to life in prison. They're not going to get the death penalty. And the public is upset not just by the fact of that, but they're also upset at their mothers. These 2 men's mothers.
It's such a weird mentality. Like, I feel like so many. Do you think serial killers still get blamed? Like, their moms get blamed? I feel like everyone just feels bad for, like, the mom.
I think a lot of people sometimes feel bad for the mom, but, like, I also think that there's a thing of, like, were they raised a certain way? You know,
that's true.
I think that's always a thing in the public consciousness.
One of my notes early on was like opens with newsreel, and then I was like, Eleanor Roosevelt, famous lesbian. And then we go on to these two mother figures.
Something I really didn't realize is how ugly Eleanor Roosevelt was. You see her in this movie, and we're just like, Jesus Christ,
Mike.
What she was? I'm just being honest. Look at her. She looks like a cow or something.
Oh my God.
like a horse. She's got fucked up teeth. She's got on a plane going some other fucking country. I'm like, oh man, that thing's gonna fucking crash. I don't know, man. It was hard looking at her, and I'm just like, damn, that fucker was like president for 4 terms. Married to that, really impressive.
I didn't expect to be coming from Eleanor Roosevelt. What's the matter with Helen? I did not expect that.
Fucking deal with it. That's what you get.
It was shocking, Ethan. It was very shocking.
Okay,
was
I'll take your word for it.
See
I
her
didn't see
in
that happen.
person, like smiling, get
I'm
on
gonna
a
look
fucking
up pictures
plane.
of Eleanor Roosevelt. Didn't think
Oh,
I'd be
you're
doing this.
gonna fucking have a panic attack.
Continue on.
All right, so the opening credits start rolling. Did you notice so I didn't know anything about this fucking movie. I knew Debbie Reynolds was in it because of the opening credits. I'm like, oh, Debbie Reynolds. Is she gonna be like acting in this? Like, Debbie Reynolds I know from like Singing in the Rain. I also know her from like Halloween Town. You know, I know her as like a fun, chipper old
I forgot
woman.
she was in Halloween Town. Yeah.
And then I see the credit musical numbers choreographed, and I'm like, wait, this is a musical? What the fuck?
It has it all.
It truly does. And it also had a credit for hair creations.
Thank you. I was hoping you'd notice that because I laughed. I was like, hair creations.
What does that mean? You know, like, what could that possibly imply? Like, I think they wear fake hair, obviously, like wigs and stuff, but like, it's not hair and makeup. It's just creation.
They divide, a category.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's not a hair creations award for the Oscars. All right, Ethan, what'd you think about Eleanor
I'm
Roosevelt?
not making any comments because when I get to heaven, I don't want her to beat me up.
She's not going to heaven.
No, man.
People that ugly don't get to heaven.
Oh, no.
Anyway, so the two women are taken from the courthouse into a car, and Shelly, I'm going to call her Shelly, right?
Oh, I went Helen because it's the name of the movie.
That's right. Okay,
It's the name
Helen.
of the movie.
Helen and Adele.
Helen and Adele.
That's right. So Helen has been cut by someone in the crowd. She doesn't know who it is.
Okay.
Her hands are all like bloody, and also it's revealed that she never cries, which is an interesting note. She's also very
Who
religious.
says this?
Adele.
Interesting.
Adele says this.
Can I just to stop?
No, yeah, please.
Yeah.
What I took from it is, these two women who weren't best friends have been joined together through this tragedy, and like they know each other better than they know themselves, and that's like why Adele is saying like, "Oh, you never cry, Helen," but it's also good exposition,
It is good to know. Actually, it's a good point because eventually, so they go back to their place that they're sharing. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think Adele owns the place, right?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
This is early on in the movie. They're sharing the place, and then Adele's like keeps going like, "Do you want some gin? You want some gin?" And she's like, "No, I don't drink. It's against my religion." But she like won't stop. So that makes sense. Like she just doesn't know her like that well, or she's not used to like being around her for very long. Adele cleans Helen's wounds, but not very well. I noticed that Helen is better at cleaning wounds than Adele is. And then Adele says that she's going to be moving to California to teach kids how to dance and sing because Shirley Temple's a big deal right now. And it's at this point where I'm also like, holy shit, this really is like supposed to be a period piece. What a swing.
1930s
Depression era. And it's like, I'm like, it's just like,
Another Shelly Winters film set in the Depression. Interesting.
yeah, exactly. And also it's like, and also Franklin Delano Roosevelt too, like FDR, obviously because they're set in the same time. But yeah, that's a good point as well. Yeah, so there's a big Shirley Temple thing. Helen doesn't watch movies, but she knows who Shirley Temple is. And she says, she's like, isn't it going to be hard moving away from your son? And Adele's like, no, he turned on me. Which I feel like is a really, at this point I was like, wow, like, this is an interesting character, Adele. She knows what she wants. She sort of like turned her back on her murderous son, and it's just interesting to see these two characters like bouncing off each other like that.
So Helen says you'll miss your son.
Yes, and Adele says no, I'm not going to miss my son. I need to go as far away from them as possible.
Interesting.
And then someone calls claiming to be the guy who stabbed Helen in the crowd. And he's like, I want revenge for what your sons did to that innocent woman, starting with you and that other woman of yours. And both Adele and Helen hear this person on the phone, meaning that person is probably real. For the longest time, I was like, is Helen making this up? Right?
Right. That's the whole, like, I guess, tension of the film, right? Is like, do we believe Helen or do we not? Like,
but Adele hears it on the phone, so we know that there was a guy at least back where they were that was trying to track them down.
There was one moment in this whole scene that I loved, and I don't know if Mike, you had to have picked up on it because you love movies. Was like during this scene, they're in like their apartment and they're across the street from this neon sign.
This hasn't happened yet, but yes,
it hasn't.
I did. So that happens. They hang up the phone, and then it's nighttime. Please set the scene, honey, because I agree. This is one of my favorite bits of the movie.
They're in like their empty dance studio where they're like she's packing up, to go to California, and like they're in this darkened room, and there's this like neon pharmacy kind of sign, and it's like. What's the word? It's like pulsating red.
Yeah, it's flashing.
It's pulsating red. And so during the scene while they're talking, like the entire screen turns red and then goes back. And I thought it was so cool. It
is because they also have to edit around it, which was so impressive because this is a dialogue scene it's like a back and forth dialogue scene between the two. And so they have to edit the performances around when the light is red and when it isn't. It reminded me a bit, if people have seen like Last Night in Soho, it kind of reminds me of like bits in that as well, where like they have to time the edit and the scene and the pace to an external force because they couldn't just like cut from when the room was red to when it wasn't. Very impressive stuff.
And it just like it like covers them, and it's like this neon effect. It was really cool.
It was so cool. Very Suspiria as well.
A Spot in the Sun also had that prominent neon sign that was
a place in the sun.
Yeah, a place, a spot in the sun. Listen, I watched the reboot. I don't know. Whatever.
Spot in the sun.
Is it different?
We got a Bond name.
I don't know. Yeah, we're rebooting it. All right. Place in the Sun had a very prominent like neon sign too, but it wasn't as incorporated into the scene as much as it was a background thing. So it's very interesting to have this be, I don't know, kind of. It sounds like a reflection on the characters' maybe temperaments or mood, at
mentality
at the
moment.
Yeah. And also it adds to their paranoia because then later on they get another phone call in the middle of the night. Helen's the only one that hears it, although Adele hears the phone ring. And it's the man again saying that they know that the lights are on. And so it creates this sense of like they are being watched and they need to get out of there. And so Adele says to Helen, come to California with me. And Helen says, I didn't want to ask. I didn't want to impose, which is what a great like moment. I don't know. I was like, really good choice for the like writing, like just like she wanted this but she didn't want to like impose onto Adele, even though she'd be losing out on probably her like only connection to this entire
her only good friend. And I'm saving spoiler alert, lesbians. And, and we'll get there later, but apparently like Shelly really wanted to play the lesbian angle, and like she makes direct choices, and that's in this moment. Like there's obviously a psychological thing going around, but like she's just like she's so in love with Adele, and like you asked me to move to California, like bitch, I was coming anyway, but like
but thanks so much.
Didn't they cut, was it the studio that cut out a lot of it because they didn't want to get an R rating?
Of course. They didn't want to get an R rating. They didn't want.
But there's so much blood in this movie.
Well, as you know, sex is wrong.
Oh,
violence
you're right.
is good.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So then they go to California, baby, and Adele has got her hair different, she's dressed different, and she's running a very popular dance school for kids. And
my boyfriend clocked it and said, "That's a back lot."
Oh,
like the moment they show the outdoor, he goes, "That's a back lot."
Not only is it obviously the back lot, it's so funny because earlier we have another outdoor shot of where they used to live, and it's like the same street. Like it's just down the street.
It feels like the back lot in Universal. Like it looks just like.
I wouldn't. Yeah, it absolutely
I think that's the
feels
one
like
he
that.
said. Like he was like, "That's Universal back lot," and I was like, "Okay."
It looks just like it.
I've seen that outdoor 100 times. I also love it because she's just like, I could get some money together. I've got a little money. We can just, we can build this thing. And then you see it, and it's like a 2-story dance studio in the middle of the city, and it's like a gorgeous like location. And I'm just like, girl, where did you fucking get this money? Like, holy shit! And she had the money to like do her makeup and hair and all that stuff. So she teaches the kids to dance, and Helen plays the piano. Moms are in the dance hall watching the kids dance and practice, and the moms are all very sort of like judgy, and they're smoking and stuff. And there's this one girl who looks exactly like Shirley Temple. She has like a wig to look like Shirley Temple and stuff. And we learn that her dad is rich, and her mom is not to be talked about because she's bad. And I don't know what that means, but apparently the girl, what's her name?
I just
Winona.
First, Shirley. Winona. Yeah, Winona Palmer or something.
Yeah, Winona Palmer. I just called her Shirley Temple because she looks like Shirley Temple, and essentially that's what she is.
Mike's looking at me like this character appears in my half elf.
Oh, I assume that she did. Okay, well, Winona's dad is rich, but the mom is not to be talked about. I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay.
And then, all of a sudden, a little person just walks into the movie, and literally the Shirley Temple goes, "Look, it's a little woman!" And then the camera pans over, and it's just like a little
And it's
person.
like a full scan of her, and she's just like posing for the camera like, we exist. And then leaves. And so like the whole movie, I'm like, there must be some symbolism. There
Something's
must be
going on.
And I'll give it to you later, but like this is only my theory. But
I can't wait to hear it, because to me it was like Lynchian. It was like it was like I'd walked in it like yes, it was like
that's really bizarre. I don't get it.
Happens and then she just leaves, and it was like what was
fun.
nice about the movie was the movie didn't go like, oh, look at this like hideous monster. It's literally just like, look how gorgeous she looks. She's just a normal person. She's happy. Goodbye.
She's wearing like this beautiful floral dress. She's got her makeup done, and she's like, yeah, I'm part of Hollywood too. Bye.
And then she just leaves.
See ya.
So anyway, so the performances are done. The recital, or not the recital, the performances, the practice is done. Adele goes back to the house, and I clocked. I don't know, maybe you would disagree with me. Their house looks a lot like the Baby Jane house. Like it's 2 stories. You know, there's like a back area with a garden. You know, like even the interior design kind of looks like a Baby Jane a little bit.
I mean, this is born of the blueprint of Baby Jane, so I'm not gonna like deny you that. Also, Hollywood has a lot of the same kind of houses.
Same kind of houses.
Stuff. But like, I mean, obviously, stairwells, like long, beautiful stairwells, become a plot point in both movies. And so, I don't like what I was reading about is like Debbie Reynolds was originally attached to this, and she wanted to do this, and she probably was at that point in her career, same part of where they were in Baby Jane, like a decade earlier, where she was like, it worked for Joan and Betty. Get me something that's similar. Oh, here's my crazy friend Shelly Winters. She's great.
Bring her along.
Oh, she's going through a panic attack? Well, who fucking cares?
She always does. It's fine.
For
She's
30
a
years.
professional. Yeah.
And also, Helen is keeping rabbits just like the Lady and Baby Jane is keeping birds.
I will say also that one thing I do like about this movie a lot is I really got a sense, even just watching half the movie, I really got a good sense of the scale of the house, like where everything was, and kind of like when someone enters the house, I'm like, okay, I know where that is. Yeah, all right. And then, okay, there's a backyard.
It is nice because it's a pretty simple like layout, but like it almost feels like the Simpson house, where you're just like, I know where that room is, I know where that room is, I know where that room is. So yeah, Adele is obsessed with pop culture and movie stars. She wants Helen to have a type just like she does, so she cuts Helen's hair, and then Helen immediately brings the fucking mood down and is like, you want to know how my husband died?
She's like, I have a new coif. Let me trauma dump. Like,
truly. So then she's like, I don't know. Can you explain this like better, honey? Because like it's a little bit of a complicated story, but basically like they lived on a farm.
Yes. So Helen, you know, she met this woman through tragic experience, and you know, clearly Adele is a woman who's on the rise, who wants to move to Hollywood. But Helen was a simple farmer's wife.
That's right.
And one day they were out having, I believe, a picnic or something, and her husband was plowing. And back then, plows were like circular saw blades in the field. And I guess her husband fell off the wagon. Oh no, the horses were stationary.
So the plow was broken, and so then he went to go fix it, and then Helen says something scared the horses, and
there's this intense scene of the husband holding on for his life.
Wait, they filmed this?
Yes.
Under the horses while the like blades are running, and he lets go, and the blades just slice him into like salami
pieces.
They
And
show the pieces?
Not only do they show the pieces, they show his body, and his like leg is detached.
Okay,
and
because
shit.
when I looked at the Wikipedia entry for this, they call it an exploitation movie, and I was like, I mean, there's some gore in it, I guess, like some stabbing, but I did expect. How do they avoid R rating. They show a man getting
This
put
was
into a thing.
it was graphic. Like it felt like something out of like an Ari Aster film or something. Like all of a
Like
sudden.
that's it reminds me of that Fear Streets, like a lot of sections in Fear Streets.
Oh
in
yeah, it
some
kind of
ways,
reminded me of Fear Street as well.
Very
but
Fear
it's
Street.
it's horrific, and
Yeah.
it's like and the other thing is she, I believe, was on the plow with her son, and so and the son is like 4 years old, and so the son sees the dad get fucking chopped into pieces at 4 years old, and Helen's like, and he always blamed me for it.
Yeah. And Ethan, this may pay attention for your half, but there's a noise the blades make on the plow that's like a creaky.
Oh,
and
okay.
it stays with you. Yeah.
Interesting.
There you go.
Okay.
And you know that kind of reminds me a bit about A Spot in the Sun, A Place in the Sun, where the sounds sort of return throughout the movie to like haunt the main character. You know, with certain things. I don't know. There's some weird overlaps with these Shelly Winters movies.
Yeah.
All right. So Shelly's hair is done.
Important.
And then they kiss. They kiss in the darkness.
They did?
What?
They
I
did.
thought that was cut out.
They don't kiss on the lips, but they do. They kiss each other in like a. I mean, I wouldn't kiss Ethan in this way, but it is a very sort of like,
all right.
you know, it's a very sort of like sweet kiss between two women in the middle of the night.
Maybe
right
as a
next to-
queer person, it just registered as normal for me. And
No,
I didn't even,
totally,
I don't remember
totally.
it. I'm like, yeah, people do that. Good for them.
Yeah, I was like, this is a nice, sweet little moment, and then all of a sudden, a man appears.
As usual, ruining everything.
I fucking hated this guy so fucking much.
I was
Which
trying
guy's
to work
this?
on an impression of him.
Try.
Where he's like, I am Hamilton.
Oh yes, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about now.
It's like I wanted to like this guy because I love his style, but like he's fucking so it's like it's a person who's boring who wants to appear interesting. Like he shows up and he's just like, I like to just walk into rooms without anyone knowing, and I like to leave houses and find my way out. I'm so mysterious.
He reminds
It's
me of
like,
that
fuck
character
you.
from The Simpsons who says, I've had a stroke or whatever. He's like,
He was so annoying and so it was like I hate this fucking guy. And also Adele like immediately trusts this dude.
he literally is in their home. Like he
Yes, on the
snuck into
second
their
floor.
home and she's like, you know where you're going. Like,
Yeah,
I want
yeah.
you on the payroll.
And yeah, he's like, I teach diction, and as you know, sound is coming into movies. So if you want your little girls to be big movie stars, perhaps not just teaching them dancing, but singing and speaking as well would be important, and I can be part of your thing. And Adele's like, yeah, sure. And Helen's like, wait, we don't fucking know this guy. He just broke into our house.
Yeah, I'm with Helen on this one.
Yeah, 100%. Helen is absolutely right in this.
Adele is a little too trusting a lot of the time, I feel.
Yeah. Although Helen, I think, also is doing this because she doesn't want anyone coming in between the two of them. She likes this
This guy,
operation.
I don't know if this guy's any competition,
Yeah,
but you know.
that's a fair point. So yeah, I hate this fucking guy. Blah blah blah. Adele's cool. So next day, dance class. Shirley Temple's there as well as her dad. What's his name? Mr. Harrison? Mr. Palmer.
I call him Link. I think it was Lincoln Palmer, but
Lincoln
I just
Palmer.
Oh,
called
it's
him
Link.
Palmer.
Link Palmer, mustachio Texan guy.
Yeah.
And he's there and he's very rich, as we know. And
Best
Adele,
friends with Shelly Winters. That
Oh, in IRL?
We looked it up, and that was, we think, how he got the role. He was like really close with best. She was friends with all like the closeted gays in Hollywood. And I
wait,
think
he's
he might have been-
closeted gay?
He may have been, but you know, like I think, but we looked it up, and they were like really close. And I think it was probably like I'm putting together this movie. Come do it with me, you know.
He's good in it too. Like it's not like a weird
No,
like.
I like him a lot. I think
he's
his character's
great.
fun.
This part, honey, can you? I need to know that I'm not alone in this. So, Adele clocks that this guy's here, and she knows that he's rich and knows that she teaches the class. So the class is going, and then she's like, "All right, kids, you guys have got the steps, but you guys got to put a little bit of fun into it." And then she puts on a song and she just starts fucking dancing for like 2 minutes solid straight
You mean
in
okay?
front of the
First off,
dad.
Ethan, I want to let you know what she's wearing. She's wearing a
Oh.
sailor's uniform, a backless like sailor's uniform, like with a little hat and like it's like silver and black.
Oh, I
and,
definitely
like,
see that.
She's showing that she's like not wearing a bra. Like
Yeah.
she is there presenting to this man. Like, and then
it's
she goes to
so
her dance.
embarrassing, and it's like you are trying so hard, and like I as a viewer, I'm like, this is so obvious what you're doing. It's transparent and it's It's truly embarrassing. But like, I think the movie, because it's obviously like, fucking Singing in the Rain, like quality dancing. Maybe it's supposed to just be like, turn your brain off and enjoy the dance. But I'm like, this is fucking painful to watch.
I mean, Debbie didn't go anywhere without doing a little razzle dazzle, and I think that's what drew her to this thing. Was like, I can add, because there's more musical numbers than I expected.
Yes.
But like she, and I mean, I think the analysis of her character is very much like that stereotype of like moves to Hollywood is naive, and I'll get into it when we get to the recital about like sexuality of young women and like what she represents.
God, honeybees. Yes.
We'll get there. Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you agree with me on that as well.
Yeah.
So Mr. Palmer, Link, is smitten. And he's talking to her, and they're talking, and there's this one bit where, there's this whole back and forth with like how Shirley Temple's wearing clothes that are different from everyone else in the class, and the dad's like, well, it's really nice, and sometimes if you got money, you might as well show it off. And then fucking Adele has the audacity to say, well, if you got it, you don't draw attention to it either. And it's like, girl, you've been drawing attention to yourself the entire fucking time.
Yeah. She her makeover is in reference to Jean Harlow, who was one of the first sex pots, Simples. I guess you could say, of the 30s. Like,
right.
And so like her thing is like, I've redone myself to be basically a mirror image of someone that people in that time were looking at the movies and like turned on,
Gotcha.
But also she just did
girls,
She also just did a fucking 2-minute dance in front of this guy, and then she's like, well, you need a little mystique, you don't want to just show off to everybody. It's like, girl, you fucking just dance with this dude. Anyway, so then he's like, all right, do you want to go on a date tonight? And she's like, of course I'll go on a date tonight. Yeah. And then he leaves, and they say goodbye. And then Adele turns around, and fucking Hamilton Starr is in the house again. He's fucking weasel. And he's just straight up upstairs snooping. And they're like, dude, get the fuck out of our house.
The amount of people going in and out of this house, it's like the friend's apartment. It's all over the place.
That is a bit of a note, because apparently Adele's been leaving the front door unlocked.
That is definitely true.
And once again, to mirror to like Baby Jane, they have this character who was like, I think his name was Victor Bruno, who was like a homosexual man who's like,
that's right.
This guy is filling that type where they're like, we need a fun big gay guy. Like,
and that is truly what he is. And so he shows up. He's like, I just wanted to show off my references. And he pulls out like, look, I worked with John Barrymore and I worked with George Bernard Shaw. And even I was like, wow, that's very impressive.
Oh, wow. Now you're like, I would hire him, actually.
I was like, this guy's lying. There's no way he worked with fucking these people. But Adele fucking falls for it. Helen doesn't even know who these people are, so she's like, I'm not impressed by any of this. Yeah,
this is hanging out with me and you. I'm definitely. That's why I dressed as Helen today.
That's right,
because I was like, I connect to not understanding any of these references. I'm just like, yeah, sure, that sounds great, Mike. Whatever you say, if you're impressed by that.
That's right. So it's later that night. Adele is getting ready for the date. She actually looks on. There's like a mantelpiece of a bunch of photos of her kid and like Helen's kid and like all that information. And I'm like, man, if fucking Hamilton Starr was just walking through your fucking house and snooping, he absolutely saw that fucking weird like thing to identify you. So Adele's getting ready. Helen is like, how long will you be out, Adele? And I was starting to get like, oh, this reminds me a lot of like A Place in the Sun, where like, Shelly Winters is playing this sort of like sad, pathetic person who realizes that she's being replaced by another person, in like the life of of a person that she loves. And Adele's like, oh, I'll be back, goodbye, have a good night. And Helen's like listening to religious radio and cutting up
Sister
carrots.
Alma, the hottest
Sister
show.
Alma.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know this was
Let me
going to
tell
be
you,
a
TBN's
character.
busting up. Like it's popping off.
Really?
Oh, she loves that show.
Well, I didn't even assume this character was going to come into play, so
yeah.
That's good to know. Also, she's cutting up carrots and cabbage for her rabbits. Just wanted to mention that. So Adele goes downstairs. There's somebody at the door. She assumes it's her beau. She opens it up, and there's just a fucking hobo standing at the front door asking for food or money. And she's fucking terrified because she's like, maybe this is the guy who's been looking for us and who's going to kill us. But then Mr. Palmer, Link, shows up and gives him some money, and he's just like, oh, thanks a lot. And then he walks off camera, and you see him in the background. He just takes a big old swig.
Oh, man. The classic, that's all hobos look like in the 30s, right? They all look like that.
It was the 30s.
Yeah. He really looked like a hobo out of like a Disney Disneyland.
Yeah, like
ride
did he
or
have the little
something.
stick with the
He
bindle?
had like a hat that was like all fucked up,
All right,
and he
all
had
right,
like the
right.
shadow and like
Okay.
the gloves.
Sure.
He looked like right out of a movie because he was in a movie. And Link gives Adele some flowers. Right? I think that's what he does.
All I know is they go. I mean, sure, he gives her flowers, but where do they go to?
They go to a gambling ship.
Ooh, what gambling
Not just
show?
a gambling show, a gambling yacht, like a yacht,
yacht.
out in the middle of wherever, and it's like a gambling boat.
Yes, with like fucking. There's like, and there's also a band. There's like dinner. It's a whole fucking thing. And I'm like,
This whole part.
It's a gambling show. So what's a show? It just means there's a bunch of places where people gamble.
no, a gambling ship.
Oh, I heard show for some reason.
No,
I
a
don't know why I
gambling
heard that.
ship.
Okay, ship. That makes
but
sense.
but as Honey says, it's really more of like a gambling yacht. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
massive.
it's like
Okay.
it's huge and it's fabulous. And what happens next?
Oh, can you explain? I feel like you should explain this.
I mean, I'm gonna try my best. So, like, you know, she's enjoying all the luxury and all that, and they're sitting watching the band, and someone starts to play a tango, and she says, I love a tango. Do you dance, Mr. Palmer?" He says, "Oh no, I don't dance."
No, you.
But,
Not even you could teach me how to dance.
but then a man across the room, who I'm assuming Palmer has hired, maybe because he knows she's a dancer, is
I
like,
assume same.
"I'm ready," and they go into the tango
And
in
he
a way I've
pays him too.
Yeah.
What?
He puts out like money behind him so that Adele doesn't see. Gives him the money, and then the guy comes up, and Palmer's like, "Oh, look at this mysterious man who's just walked up to us. He wants to dance the tango with you. Wouldn't you like to do that?" And she's like, "Of course I will." And they go out and they dance a tango for 3 minutes.
It's
3-minute
amazing.
Tango. It's
I said
ridiculous.
Adele slays because fucking she slays. I've never seen a tango the tango fully done through.
Yeah.
And I was like, "You do that? You flip that way?" Like,
And what I love about this too is because like at first I was like, oh, is like Palmer must have like known that guy in advance, right? Like he must have, because it's like there's no way this dude just showed up and was like, "Oh, I don't. This guy's just giving me money. I guess I have to tango with this lady." I don't, like he had to have been prepared.
He's just a quick
Yeah.
learner.
I guess.
What's wild to me is it really just shows that money can literally buy you anything. Like this is a market I didn't know existed. Like
People that dance
substitute
with your
dancers
date.
to dance
Yeah.
with your like partner. Like that's
He
wild.
gets straight cucked, man. It's great. And so then Adele arrives home drunk. She's singing, and Helen is waiting in the dark for her jealously. And Helen has decorated the practice room for the upcoming dance recital, which also reminds me of Place in the Sun, where she waits for Montgomery Cliff to show up for his birthday. It's very similar to that as well.
A lot of waiting around on people. She's
and
never
there's
like
oh, sorry.
I was gonna say she's never like the active participant in the story. She's always kind of like having
the
things
side.
happen to her until something
Something
And
happens.
she's
happens.
decorated with streamers and balloons,
Oh,
which you may recognize later in the movie, Ethan.
Oh, okay.
And then, so she's like, "Look, this is for the dance recital." And Adele's like, "No, don't worry about that. We're going to have it in a big theater. Mr. Palmer's paying for it all." And then Helen flips out. And she's like, no, it's supposed to be our recital. It's like a big deal. And it's like, it's so good because you can see that she's seeing everything starting to like fall apart for her. And now she's, if this goes away, like she's going to be stuck in California, no son, no friend, like it's all going to be gone basically. Yeah. And she's trying so hard to stay normal. What happens next? Helen asks Adele if... Oh, yeah, that's right. So Adele's having a grand old time. She's feeling great. She's still a little bit drunk after the party. And then Helen's like, "Did you tell Mr. Palmer about your fucking son?" And she's like... and Adele's like, "Helen, Jesus Christ, of course I did it."
The amount of times Adele comes home having a great time, whistling, like drunk, just a little drunk, and Helen just kills the vibe every time.
Every
time. Just puts whatever vibe and just murders it.
And it's like, obviously... that's not a good move if you want a person to stick around with you, Helen.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. And then she like apologizes for killing the mood. Like she didn't even realize what she's doing. It's good shit. All right. And then it's time for the Kitty Star Review, Adele's Kitty Star Review. It is in a big theater. I was shocked that they filled a theater full of adults to watch a bunch of kids fucking dance. That's the last thing I'd want to see.
Shirley Temple was big at the time, though, so they're like,
true.
this is a budget version.
And a lot of the people in the audience, too, are from, like, Warner Brothers and RKO and a lot of the big production companies.
That's what, the whole idea is that, like, producers and casting people will be there to watch.
Got it.
That's right.
Shirley Temple.
The recital's in a big theater, and then the Shirley Temple girl is doing a whole Shirley Temple act. She's doing the animal crackers in my soup dance with a bunch of other people.
Oh,
and we see
it's
this
wild.
fucking dance.
It's full
crazy.
production.
Helen
made
like,
every
holy crap.
costume.
And it's so funny. Yes, Helen did make every costume. And the other funny thing about this, too, is, like, they're doing the dance. Well, she's really primarily dancing. And then you just have, like, a girl, like, on a string, like, performing as, like, a bird. Yeah, the butterfly. And it's just, like, she went to a dancing academy, and she is doing a fucking thing.
Clearly she did not excel.
They lower her down at the end of the number, and she's just like, I'm part of this, too.
Yeah. It's like, if I was the mom, I'd be like, what the fuck did I pay all the money for? She's just like hanging her up by a string. So that whole thing happens. It's great, whatever. They all go off. I mentioned that Helen is indeed sewing the costumes backstage, which, like, the show's already going on, girl. Like, it's way too fucking
Those
late.
are backups, You
Sure.
never know if Butterfly Girl's going to rip her butterflies wings off.
Which maybe that's going to happen.
Shit.
And then, all of a sudden, I'm introduced to the worst part of this movie. Truly, it was so hard to watch. I was watching this with my wife too, and we were both like, what in the fuck is this? So it's a dance recital, right? So it's all these little kids, all these little girls up on stage dancing. And this little girl goes up dressed like Mae West, acting all fucking sexy and shit.
Full with like form-fitting dress.
Yes.
Breastplates. Hat.
Oh.
And so what I was going to say earlier is, so Mike,
go ahead.
So during the like Shirley Temple thing, it was this weird, I think it was intentional, that the angle of the filming was almost that you could see almost under Shirley Temple's dress. And so I was like, this is weirdly, overtly, strangely sexual. Maybe I'm just making this up. The next number is a little girl as Mae West.
Yes. And like doing the voice and singing very provocatively.
A song called Nasty Man.
Nasty
like,
boy.
You nasty man.
Yeah.
Nasty man.
And off stage, the mom is like coaching her how to like act more sexy and shit. And I was like, whoa, Adele.
I can't believe that Deck the Halls somehow at least said that this was gross. And this movie is like, that's just dancing back then.
And I was like, oh my God, everyone's going to boo. Everyone's going to be like, this is disgusting. I don't want to see this. Fucking number ends. Everyone gets up on their fucking feet, just starts fucking cheering. They're like, yeah, this is what we want to fucking see. And I'm just like, wow. People say that like drag shows are bad for kids nowadays. This is fucking disgusting. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God. Like, it was hard to watch. And it goes on for like a minute and a half or 2 minutes or something. It is hard to see.
It's intercut with the scenes of what happens next, but like they make the choice to show the entire number of this little like whatever age girl dressed up as Mae West with like just with a little fan going, you nasty man.
Yeah.
Nasty. And it was like, okay, all the things I got from the Shirley Temple number have now just been confirmed for this number.
And again, the audience is not full of like kids who might like want to enjoy other kids dancing. It's adults. It's full-grown adults. And they're all like, yeah, that's what we want to see. Anyway, so that happens. I wash my eyes with bleach, and then the movie continues. We have Helen sitting next to a fan while she's sewing, and then she hears the fan blades. And then starts to intercut with it starts to intercut with the blades that her fucking husband got shoot up in. She starts seeing like blood, guts, blood, her dead husband, the blades, and she looks at the fan blades and she goes out and touches them, and then she starts to bleed on her hand, and then she starts looking around. She starts seeing like the dead woman that her son killed. And
she sees the victim on the floor
the victim on the floor. Hamilton Starr shows up, and she immediately thinks it's the guy from the phone. Like, she's going through a full-on panic attack. But it's like there's a number is coming up. Like there's a big number, a big American a number coming up.
The Americana number.
Everyone's dressed up like Star-Spangled Banners and shit. And I was like, what is going on here? Like, why? Somebody needs to help Helen right now. Helen is going through a full-on panic attack backstage. She needs some help right now. But no.
And the butterfly's wing, that was where the butterfly wing comes in. And they're like, it's ripped. And
oh my God.
and she starts freaking out because they have to cut her out of the outfit because it's like broken or whatever. And so they have like a knife there, and she's like, ah! She starts screaming in the middle of this number. And this number, by the way, are already the movie's embarrassing. But then this happens, and Adele is front and center, dancing in front of all of the kids, going like, "Look at me too! I'm Adele! Isn't this great that I can dance as well?" And then Helen off stage starts screaming bloody murder because she's going through a fucking like panic attack, like a mental breakdown. The scene cuts to after the recital, and I was like, wow, that was really sad. I literally jokingly wrote, "Oh, Helen is ruining the big number." I wrote that as a joke. And then we cut to Adele, and the first thing Adele says to Mr. Palmer is,
"I just can't get over it. Right there, my one big moment. All bitched up."
Huh.
She's upset that Helen had a mental breakdown in the middle of her big number.
It's ruined the spotlight, man.
And that's the end of my half.
Yeah, I was confused when that happened.
Wow, I was hoping you'd come in at least during the recital and not.
No. So it's wild because what you guys are describing is like a completely different movie from what I feel I saw.
It does
like,
take a change, yeah.
Like I forget. I was like, why are these little girls here? What's going on? There's one scene where they're there, and then they got the instructor, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Why does he just appear randomly everywhere?
The star guy, Hamilton Star.
Yeah, Hamilton Star. I never knew his name because he talked about everything else but his name.
But his name, yeah.
Anyway, so we got when I come in. Adele is talking about how Helen ruined the show, but then Helen is also watching them
from the upstairs.
From upstairs, but then sees someone behind them smoking a cigarette.
Ooh,
and like looking mysterious.
A shadowy
figure.
Very scary.
Who could that be?
And there's one thing, Mike, that we didn't tell Ethan, but Ethan will know, is they make a very deliberate shot when they first open the studio, that there's construction going on across the street.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I didn't think that was going to come into play. But yeah, that's fair.
That backlot being under construction all the time.
Yeah, some of their movies being filmed back there. Yeah. They're in the middle of
exactly
building the
set. So then, let's see. Adele goes into the home and forgets to shut the front door. That's when I learned that's her thing. And Helen's just in her room thinking about things, and looks down to see the door open. She's shocked. She's like, oh my God. And she goes and she shuts the door.
Ethan has to understand. There's literally like a psychic moment where Shelly Winters is like,
yeah, that's
something's happening. Like she like finds her way and sees the door open. It's amazing.
It's very strange. I was just like, maybe that's just how she acts. I don't know, but
kind of.
Okay. And then I can't. Was this the next night or was this the same night? But the phone rings.
No, it's the same night.
It's the same night. The phone rings and Helen's like, "Don't answer the phone." And Adele's like, "Oh, you're off your rocker." And she goes, "No, I saw someone watching you while you and Link were kissing. Someone was smoking a cigarette." She's like, "Oh, whatever." And then she picks up the phone, and it's just a man breathing on the other side.
Yeah, it's like a heavy.
Yeah.
When we first are introduced to that voice over the phone, Adele mentions that a person with asthma is on the phone for Helen. So they are like, even know that like hearing that sort of like labored breathing is most likely this dude. Yeah.
And so they both hear this.
Oh.
They both listen.
Okay.
But they just kind of were like, well, that's weird. I kind of move on. And Helen's like, I gotta go check my bunnies. They haven't been taken care of all day. And I'm like, what are these bunnies doing? And she's like, oh man, just saying just random shit. She reminds me a lot of my mom, where she just says stuff and she does things. So it's
she loves
very
those
funny
rabbits.
She loves those rabbits. She loves talking about them. She loves saying that like, this bowl is empty. It's almost like rusted through. I'm gonna go see a new pan. And so she goes into the cellar under the house to go find a new pan, and you just hear a scream.
It's similar to the screaming from backstage. I just convinced she wouldn't scream, and they like had a can scream that they just
really
reuse
funny.
over and over again.
Yeah, you never do see her scream, actually.
Like there's a part where like when she's backstage that she's screaming, but you can tell that it's not like real life screaming.
Right.
So she must have just had one day in the studio where she was like, ah, or someone was. So it's like the exact
probably like
same
lost
scream.
her voice. And they're like, I don't want to do that again. Yeah.
So she goes and screams, right? And so Adele follows her and sees what she's looking at, and she sees a standee, like an old standee of Adele, in I believe the sailor outfit.
Yes.
She
brought
her
that from
Americana.
home.
Yeah, her
Yeah.
Americana outfit.
Been stabbed multiple times, tons of stabs in it, and there's a knife
included
still in
with
there.
red blood paint.
Yeah, red
Someone,
blood
like,
paint
painted
too.
blood in it.
Whoa.
It confused me at first because I was like, "Is this a person?" Because I was like, there's blood. Is this a person? But then I was like, no, it's a standee. Obviously, I did be a little bit more shocked.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. So they're just kind of like, that's crazy. They don't really do anything about that. I feel like.
What could you do?
I guess you're right.
Call the cops.
Call the cops. But you also, I keep forgetting that they did change their name. They don't want to have a bunch of
That's right. I
attention
guess I
going
forgot to
them.
mention they changed their
Yeah, they
last
changed their
names.
last name, which
Yeah.
does come into play.
Yeah.
Which you could do back in the 30s, and no one would.
Yeah.
Nobody would.
Not even
yeah.
bother your first name. You're like, my first name, it's fine. They see an Adele and a Helen together. It's probably some other Adele and Helen, even if they look different. The same.
Yeah, particularly with Adele. Very particular name.
And it's spelled with 2 L's.
I know.
So, like, it's a very specific way of spelling Adele.
Yeah.
So then Link takes Adele to a fancy mansion. He just like rents it for the summer because he's so rich. And then he says, "Oh, I got a letter from you."
From her?
What he thinks is from her, and it's a newspaper clipping of kind of the trial that went on. It says, "Mother of accused killers show restrain or strain." I think strain.
Yeah.
Restrain.
I don't know. I don't know what they're restraining from. Maybe they're going to kill someone. I
Yeah,
don't know.
possibly.
They had strain.
Yeah, Mike, it's a full-on like description of like these 2 women have been standing by the trial and stuff like that.
Oh my god.
Pictures on there, everything. Like
And
you
it's
see
from
exactly
her.
who it
Did
is.
Helen send that to him to like?
We don't know.
Ruin the relationship.
We don't know. Well, so Link is a cool guy. He's just like, all right, well, I figured that was a way of you letting me know on like a secret without someone telling, without you like having to actually talk about it. I just wanted to like bring it up. She's like, I didn't send this. I didn't send this at all. Maybe Helen sent it? I don't know. He's like, well, that's all right. That's cool.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care. In fact,
He doesn't. And
Go ahead.
Adele is like, oh, and by the way, Helen's son was the ringleader. I don't even know how my son got involved. It was very funny. She's like, it was all him.
And
love it.
So he takes that as like, well, I'm pretty rich, and I could get another lawyer. We could get an appeal process. That's a pretty good way of probably
That's
getting
funny
them
because
out.
that's something Adele like actually wants. She
Yeah.
says like
She can't afford it.
Well, early on, she before they even go to California, she's like, "We'll go to California. I'll teach kids how to dance, and maybe we'll make enough money to get an appeal for our sons."
That's
it's
interesting
like part of the
because she
plan.
kind of denies. She kind of says like, "That's a lot of tap lessons. I can't do that." So maybe she knows she's just trying to get money out of him.
I think
don't know.
so. Yeah.
But he's like, "Yeah, I'll do that for you, Adele." And I'm like, "Damn, that's
What a
something."
fucking! When I first saw this guy, I was like, I don't trust this dude. I'm like, I don't know about this guy. This guy, he's paying people to dance with his girl. I don't know.
I don't trust
think
the other
it's-
guy more, to be honest.
Oh yeah, no, they are both not very trustworthy. But I think in the middle of it, I think something's wrong with Helen. I think that's the person we got to be
What
paying
is it,
attention
though?
Of all.
So we cut back to Helen. She's listening to her religious radio. Adele comes in and says, "Oh, I got a letter from someone with your old name on it. It has your old last name. It's addressed to Helen Hill." And Helen's just like, "I don't want this. This isn't me. No one lives here."
Right.
And she's like, "Aren't you going to open it?" He's like, "No." And she runs down the mailman, gives it back to him, and says, "No one by the name lives here." And the mailman's just like,
Oh, yeah, because
all
he
right,
uses her
cool.
real last name, and she's
Yes.
just like, no one lives here, that name.
Don't want to have any sort of like paper trail going there.
And the mailman's like, I'm just doing my fucking job,
Yeah.
lady. I don't know what to tell you.
He legitimately had that face. He's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
sure, whatever, ma'am.
Yeah.
You seem distressed." Yeah, so, and apparently, I guess, which is very strange to me, I don't know if this was a rule of letters back in the day, but they had the return address on there, and they kept saying, "This address is nearby," which I think is wild. If you're sending a letter that seems very threatening, you could have
add that.
You put a return address on there?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just leave that
Interesting. I
blank?
didn't notice that, but yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Yeah, you could just not put it, right?
You just not put it and be anonymous.
Yeah.
And they'll deliver. You just need
Well,
to put stamps.
well-
they have to do that for plot, right?
Well, it will have a moment, actually, I think, later.
Oh, okay.
Well, we'll find out. I'll tell you when we get there.
Okay.
So then Adele starts.
Huddy is keeping information from Ethan, the guy who saw this half of the movie. Don't worry, I'll tell you about it later.
We don't reveal too much to you, Mike.
When it
It's
comes
for
up
your
in my
protection.
notes, I'll bring it up because
Okay.
keep
Anyway.
suspense.
Just like this movie. So then Adele starts asking questions of Helen, like very weird questions, like, "Do you wish me well, Helen?" And Helen's like, it's so
She
weird.
goes, "You're a well-wisher, Helen, and well-wishers can do bad." Like she just like,
Like, well, she like catches her. She's like, "You wish me well." She's like, yeah, I guess," which is like a normal response to say. It's like, well, well-wishers do weird things. It's like, do
yeah,
they?
she's like they get creepy.
And I'm like, and then she says, "Maybe you're trying to send the letter to yourself to throw everyone off. Did you send the letter to Link?" And she's like, "No. someone's like out to get us, right, Adele? Like you heard the weird phone call. You got that weird stab, and I'm like, what's a stab going on here? Like she saw that she got stabbed.
She saw that Helen got stabbed.
Yeah. Like there's clearly someone is out for us. And like, did they say, I might have got this wrong. Did they say, because I still don't know what the hell's going on.
True. This is a moment where something comes out. Yeah.
Did they say like our sons want to kill us or something?
Yeah. So what is it? I think Helen admits is when she was seeing like the vision of the victim of the sons, she was like, it looked like you, Adele. They wanted to kill us. And like, I don't know if there was more than one victim, but she's like, that victim looked like you. So like, our sons wanted to kill us. Like those were proxies.
Oh, yes. They got a picture of the person who died.
Also, it's interesting, too, because they say earlier on, I didn't think this was going to come into play, but they also say that the sons have not ever sent them a letter, like, after being sent to prison. Like, they've, like, not made contact, again, to imply, like, they don't like their moms and they want to kill them.
And Adele is, obviously takes this hard, and Helen's like, I'm not trying to buy back my son's love, Adele. In fact, I think you neglected him, Adele, and this triggers her. And she's just like, I want you out tonight. I don't want to live here anymore, because obviously she didn't trust her. And then Helen's now just putting all the blame back on Adele. And honestly, Helen's pretty cool with this. She's just like, all right, I'll find a hotel. I'm a little upset, but I'll find a hotel. That's okay. And then
Helen knows it ain't over, baby.
It
ain't over yet. You can say
find
what
a way
you
back.
want. I'm here to stay.
I'm titled in the credits of this movie. So
Something wrong with me, baby.
So Adele leaves the night to go hang out with Link, and before that, Helen says, I forgive you. And then Adele leaves, and then Helen goes to her room.
Oh, the most lesbian moment of the movie.
Oh, absolutely. This is the hardest one.
More lesbian than Carol?
Yeah, maybe.
Carol
so then she says, she looks at all the nice stuff that Link has bought her in Adele's room and says, like, harder for a rich man to get into heaven than a camel through an eye of a needle. And then she grabs like a little nighty of Adele's.
Like a negligee.
And just starts smelling it.
Yeah, she like takes a whiff.
A big whiff.
Like, she's like, like Molly Shannon in Superstar.
I'm gonna get out of here now. Like, this is going to be one for the road.
Yeah,
like this is the last time I'm gonna
she
get this whiff.
She wants to keep the scent so that if she needs to find Adele again, she can. Wow. Honestly, this is what I fucking love about Shelly Winters. She fucking takes swings, man. She's like, my character is a lesbian, and I'm gonna play her as such, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Very conservative though too.
Yeah.
I noticed that also she gets a lot of roles where she's conservative. In like, I think like 3 out of the 4 movies we watched, where she just plays a very conservative woman.
Yeah,
and does a great job at it.
She does.
I'm not gonna knock it.
No, she's great at it.
Yeah, because if I may interject, that was her power. Is she like wanted to play like not necessarily beautiful characters, but characters that come off as one way, but then show you another way. Like totally like you look at me this one way, and by the end of the movie, I'm going to show you I'm completely different from that.
The strength of her, and like sometimes to a fault for some of the other movies, is she will try to find the beauty in whatever character she's playing and try to find the sympathy, even if it's not deserved. Like, even if she's playing like an unrepentant bad person, she will try to find the empathy within it.
Wait
and it's
until next Shelly Winters Wonderland when you watch Cleopatra Jones and she's the villain. We'll discuss then.
Okay, all right. I'll hold my thoughts till then. But like, it's cool to see like a woman, particularly of like her age, just go like, I want to do challenging roles. Like, I'm going to challenge myself every single time. And it's kind of cool too, because since like A Place in the Sun, I know that was the first time that she had played somebody that was seen as like homely. Before then she was like a sex symbol, and it feels like that was like the turning point of her going like, oh, I can do way more interesting things with these roles. Like I can take on.
It's also just something that's not really represented in Hollywood as much, right?
No, that's
like,
true.
It's a more niche role, but she fills it well.
Yeah, she'd be played by like Jane Squibb or whatever now, or something, or like
Well, during this nice tender moment with her and the
90,
someone suddenly comes through the door.
I bet it's fucking Hamilton star again.
No, it's just you just see feet and a guy walking up the stairs, and Helen is standing there at the top of the stairs, and she looks down, and you see a man. You do not recognize this man. I have never seen this man. This is the first time you see him.
Is this a person that we should recognize?
No, I mean, if at the most, he's the shadowy man across the street. but-
Okay.
Yeah.
So he comes up, starts walking, and he starts saying, "Did you get my letter? Did you get my letter?" And Shelly's just like, "Fuck this!" And suddenly the film is like slow motion mode. She just pushes him down the stairs. And let me say, not a great fall. I was like, this guy's fine. He's gonna get up at the end of this, and he's laying there on the ground. I'm like, he's gonna get up. He's gonna get up. Then suddenly, pool of blood right around his head. I'm like, well, that movie terms.
Those are marble tiles. That's a hard fall. Yeah.
He's gonna lose his
I just didn't
eyesight.
think he hit his head at all. I felt like he was rolling pretty safely, but
Yeah.
maybe he was doing his own stunts. So, anyway, so she goes down there and looks, and I'm like, is he dead? And then it flashes to a bloody corpse, and she goes, Matt. And I'm like, who the fuck is Matt?
Yeah, she
Who's
starts
Matt?
to have another. And what happens is, right as she notices he's dead, lightning strikes. Like,
Yeah.
Ooh, dramatic.
And it changed. Isn't that when it flashes like the dead corpse too?
Yeah,
Like, it shows
exactly.
the-
Like it shows she sees someone else there. She sees her dead husband, and he's got like the cuts in his face, and
I was just
which
like,
for
this is
Ethan
so
must have been
graphic.
like, what the fuck is going on?
Absolutely was that. Absolutely. I didn't know what was happening, who this Matt person is. But you know what you do? You turn to the Lord after seeing something horrific like
That's
that
right.
and killing someone. You
Gotta
go,
talk to Mother Alma,
Sister Alma.
Sister Alma.
She goes back upstairs and starts listening to the preacher and tries to calm herself. And then Adele comes home, opens the door. By the way, the door is like right next to where this man's body is.
Of course.
And it's dark. And she's just like, what the fuck? And Helen comes down, explains the whole thing, thinks that, he's definitely like, is he
He's the
dead?
guy,
He definitely
yeah.
looks dead. He's been there for a while, not moving. I'm pretty sure
There's
he's
blood
dead.
coming
There's
out of his
blood
fucking
coming out
skull.
of his head.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, well, who was this guy? Did you take the letter he had in him? He's like, oh. So they look at the letter, and Adele opens it, and it says, oh, did you know you had an aunt in like West Virginia? And she's like, no. And he says, well, apparently this guy worked for a company that goes around and looks for missing heirs about people who died, and you have some money, some like aunt in West Virginia who's gonna like give you a bunch of money. And Adele laughs kind of like hysterically, like I
Yeah,
can't
like
believe this
Walter
happened.
White in the.
She starts like hitting Helen with the letter. She's like, "You
Yes.
stupid bitch!" Like,
Yeah, pretty much exactly that.
You bitched this up again.
And it just is so upset, and then immediately is like, we gotta bury this body. We gotta get rid of him. We gotta do it ourselves.
Oh, a construction site.
yeah.
Oh,
and
shit.
first Helen wants to call up Palmer. She's like, he can get rid
Yeah,
of him.
that's true.
And Adele's like, what?
We can't. No. She says we can't. I can't stand to lose another guy. Like I
Yeah.
can't have this happen.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, Adele accuses Helen. She's like, I lost my son because of like she blames her for losing.
the
Losing
ringleader, right?
people,
The
men
ringleader.
from I lost my son because of you, Helen, and your son, and I'm not going to lose another man to you.
So she's
I
like,
won't lose
"All
another
right.
man to you.
another
Oof.
love from me. So they're like, we'll get rid of them together. Helen does not want to do this.
Oh, she
at
does
all.
not wanna
She
do
does
it.
Absolutely not want to do this. She wants to just come clean. So, you know what they do? They go out and it's raining like hell. They drag him through a rainstorm and drop him in the cement ditch. And I was like, all right, then they're going to start the cement truck and cover it all up. Nope, they just leave him out in the open.
They don't know how to work
Yeah,
a
I know. It
cement
makes
truck.
more sense. But I don't know. I thought it was cartoon.
What's Adele gonna do? Fucking tap her way over to the cement mixer?
At one point, the body does fall on Adele, and she like loses her mind.
Yeah, she does. She's like, get him off me! Get him off me! Anyway, it's funny because also a car drives by. They see them like carrying a person, but he kind of looks like he's drunk.
Yeah,
Just
it
a
looks like
drunk
they
guy.
was drunk. Like they're
And then they go back in. Helen burns the letter and then says, "We're friends now, right? We're friends."
Oh
Yeah.
It's
shit!
like, oh, okay. So she's taking advantage of the situation. Like, well, now we're really stuck
now
together.
we're gonna be stuck forever.
Well, once again, it's where I feel like Shelly Winters finds like the crux of the character, where it's like they were bonded by trauma. Now there's
Yeah.
more trauma, and it's like, well, now you can't leave me.
yeah,
We're once
yeah,
again, intrinsically tied.
yeah. That's a good point. And I think it's all in the way that she probably performs it, right?
Yeah.
The way that she expresses it.
Yeah.
God, what a strong actor.
And then we cut to the first time I've seen this man. He's teaching these kids these vowels and how to pronounce them, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And Helen walks outside. She's in a whole getup. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I had no idea she was a dancer. I had no idea what they were
Adele,
doing with all
yeah.
these kids. I didn't know what was happening. Very
Oh yeah,
confusing.
she comes in her sailor outfit. She's like,
Yeah, and they call these kids chickabiddies, and I'm like, I haven't heard that word in a long time. And then class dismissed, and all these kids are gone. I'm like, what is happening? And Helen's just standing outside, looking at the police find this dead body, and Adele's like, I'm gonna go take a nap. This is exhausting. But Helen can't really clear her
Sleep.
conscience, so
Yeah.
she's like leaving the radio on. and Adele comes back and wakes up from her nap and can't find Helen. But she hears
Oh yeah,
the radio.
because at that moment the radio is. Oh no, yeah, this is the part.
on. Yeah.
She wakes up and she hears Sister Alma being like, "The only way to get out of damnation is to repent and to confess."
Yep.
Oh no.
So guess where
No.
Helen goes? Helen goes to the church where Sister Alma is.
So let me give you a quick history lesson because you might not
Please.
know about her.
Please
Sister
do.
Alma is Sister Alma is played by Agnes Moorehead, who was in Dora and Bewitched.
Yeah.
She is also in Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte. So she had her like finger in the like old hag exploitation movies. Like
Wasn't she also the voice of the fucking Exorcist or the
No,
demon of
that's
the
that's
Exorcist?
that's a whole different actress. But
Oh,
no,
okay.
Agnes Moorehead. But I love her. Agnes Moorehead is not afraid to play like any kind of role. But she's playing Sister Alma, who is based on Amy Semple McPherson, who was an evangelicalist of the 30s, who started a church in Hollywood for like the rich, and would have people come from Hollywood. And she was one of the famous people who, there's her and Agatha Christie and one other person who famously disappeared for like 2 weeks, but then never. Amy Semple McPherson is a figure in history, and it's very much what Sister Alma is. Runs like this beautiful church. People pay a lot of money. Well, Ethan will go into it, but like people pay a lot of money to get, repentant and like to get sins, but it was all like kind of like a money scheme kind of.
How interesting.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I never knew it was based off a real person, but
It felt like
lines
this
up.
was like it felt like it must have been, but yeah, this is interesting to know. I also didn't know that there were other people like Agatha Christie who had disappeared for like 2 weeks and nobody
Oh
ever
yeah,
knew who they were. That's
they
interesting.
they made a musical in like 2012 written by Kathy Lee Gifford about this character. And there's a movie with like Faye Dunaway, I think, that's like all about her and stuff like that. But
wow.
she was a figure in like LA history of being like this evangelicalist who made, very much like Scientology, like made religion hip and like rich people and blah blah blah.
Right, was able to make a lot of money off of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, bet those Hollywood people have a lot of sins. And Helen's going to go confess hers right now. So she's up there getting in line because, first she's listening to church and it's going A-okay and she's having a great time. And Adele finds her, but now it's time for people to come up and be anointed. And it's funny because Sister Alma like anoints people every time. She's like, put money into the gold cup, and then I will bless you with eternal youth. And then she says, youth is yours forever. Not really forgiveness, just kind of like you'll live forever.
Yeah, youth.
That's
Which is a Hollywood
what you really
thing.
want, right?
Yeah.
So people give money in the basket, and then it comes to Helen's turn, and Helen is like, Listen, man, I gotta confess something to you. Listen, man, I gotta confess something to you. She's
to me,
like,
bro.
That's between you and God. That's not between you. No, I need to confess something to you directly. And she's like, I already forgave you. You're forgiven. God
Oh yeah,
forgives
she's
you
like,
too.
you're forgiven.
Yeah.
And she's like, but I'm not.
And she's like, I told you. You told me I'd find my joy in heaven, and I don't think I'm gonna go there. I think I need repentance. And Sister Alma's like, I offered you my blessing, but you refused. And then at this point, Adele's kind of like, actually, like security's coming to take her away, and Adele. And Helen says, before she leaves, there is no forgiveness for me, and then gets drug off.
Oh no.
I honestly like the scene a lot. It was fun seeing what she would kind of do to try to get rid of this guilt, because she's clearly more guilt laden than I mean,
Adele.
Adele's just like, we fucking took this guy out and buried a body. I'm living my life. I'm going to my dance studio. I'm having a good time. I'm taking a nap.
Adele is willing to compartmentalize.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes to a fault.
Yeah,
It's
probably.
probably not healthy. but yeah.
Debbie plays the character very like vicious. Like the thing is like this woman's playing fast and loose at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And, like willing to get away with murder just to like get her life ahead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You get the vibe that like I get the vibe from Debbie Reynolds' performance that she's just sick of being like a nobody. She she was a mom, she was a wife, she doesn't want that anymore, and she's willing to do anything to be famous and successful, including make a fucking fool of herself and bury a body.
What's worse? Who could say?
Yeah.
At home, let's see. At home, the dance instructor is talking to Adele and says, like, Mrs. Martin, how is she? That man...
Hamilton.
Yes, Hamilton. Mr. Martin, how is she? That man dying in the trance outside. And she's like, what does that have to do with anything? It's like, oh, well, Miss Martin is a sensitive person. It might shock her, and she might feel bad. And then suddenly Helen appears and is like, I gotta go to the doctor. She's coming down the stairs. Just losing it. And then and it's funny because the guy says, like, you know how she reacted when she first saw me. And then Helen sees him again and goes, ah! And then Adele's just like, go to your room and pray. That's what the doctor demands. And she goes there, and Adele checks on her. She's like, I'm not gonna pray. I'm damned. I won't pray. And Adele, she says also, Adele, you're afraid of me. You're scared of me now. You're scared of like me and my thoughts and stuff like that.
Ethan failed to mention that in her room she takes the cross off her bed, above her bed and throws it, and then says to Adele, "If I speak, you'll be damned too."
She does say that. You're right. It's pretty scary.
Man, that's so cool.
Let's see. So, yeah, Adele then says, like, look, I want you to be well. I want you to get well, which is funny because she's a well-wisher, as possible. And then I want you to go away as far as possible. And then she shuts the door. And I think Adele doesn't leave. No, Adele doesn't leave. Okay. So then Helen sneaks out and finds her bunny rabbits because she just wants to check on them, you know?
The rabbits.
Yeah. Let's see. She hugs one of them, and then
she's cuddling.
And then Hamilton shows up out of nowhere.
Like literally, like it's like one of those scenes where you're here, and then you turn, and he's like, "Hello."
Yeah, and he has a fucking white rose.
He has a
white
white rose in his hand.
I bought a surprise for you. And then here you go, and she grabs it, and it cuts her on the thorns.
Oh no!
And then he's
Not
like,
the
"Oh,
blood.
a rose always has its thorns, doesn't it?" And he has a pair of fucking like clippers, like pliers right next to him, and clips the thorn right off. Says, "Oh, here you go." And then he says, "Do you want to go inside in that solitary room of mine?" And then he follows her upstairs, and I'm like, this guy's gonna kill her. But then I never see this guy again.
Yeah, Hamilton gets away scot-free. Like, he doesn't get
Does he,
murdered.
though?
I don't know.
We never
if he's
see
dead
him.
somewhere, we literally never know, because I literally was expecting the next like reveal to be like his slashed throat somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
And at this point, I began to have this theory of like, every time Helen gets cut, it triggers some sort of psychotropic, some trauma response, because throughout the movie, she's constantly getting cut. And so, but Hamilton put her up to bed and said, "Bye, bitch. I'll be back on Monday." Like,
Did he though? I never saw
I don't
him
know.
again. He might be dead, like in the cellar, for all we know.
But
Like,
where?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe
where
it
could
got
he?
cut or
Where could he
something.
be? You know, like where could she have put him?
The cellar. This is a great spot.
maybe it was a cut scene that it was like too violent or something.
Too violent. Yeah,
violent,
they're like,
yeah.
oh, we filmed
right.
all this blood, and I guess we want to.
We only want to see violence towards women. We don't want to
Because
see.
I
any
also
towards
put
any
in my
guys.
notes that they literally play like dramatic music when he's like, "I'm
They
going to take
do.
you up to your room," and they're like, "No."
It's very scary, and they just drop it. It's the weirdest thing. I don't understand. Anyway, so Adele's hanging out with Link, just playing mini golf, and Link's
Mini golf?
and
It's such a novel experience.
It's such a novel experience back then, and she's like,
They're
"Do
like,
you want
"Oh, this reminds me of that little woman that we just saw."
I also wanted to point out that Ethan would never notice, but like Adele looks so chic in her little outfit. She's got this like beige little dress with a hat with like a little pattern.
It's date
going
night.
on. Yeah, she is ready to mini golf.
Yeah, that is definitely very different mini golf vibes than it is today. Which,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, now it's like divorced dads.
exactly. Never dressed to the nines to do mini golf.
No.
So then she's like, "Do you want to marry me?" And Link's like, "Yeah, I want to marry you. Let's get married tonight in Yuma.
This guy's so fucking easy.
If anything is
Oh my
worth doing, it's
God.
worth doing right away." And I'm like, this is the 3 years or the year from retire. Like, I'm only a day from retirement, you know?
This is seriously crazy too, because he has said, like, he's gone on record by saying, like, "I like playing the field. I don't want to be tied down." So it's like, what? Like, this guy's like really to just give it all up for fucking Adele.
Adele's
is-
cool, I guess.
I mean, yeah, she is. She's
fun.
great at dancing. You know,
Yeah.
she'll dance with other men for him. So
Sure, yeah.
pretty great.
Um,
Is his wife ever mentioned?
wait, he has a wife?
Yeah, the one who's like the bad woman, but no.
What the fuck?
I didn't know that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they never talk about her again. She's just a bad woman.
All right, she's a bad
All right,
woman.
cool.
That's fine.
Good to know.
Cool.
Doesn't matter now.
Doesn't matter.
Because Adele comes home. She's super happy. Obviously, she's gonna get married.
She's
She's
gonna
gonna
get
get married in like tonight.
Oh, and Ethan missed out that she does try to confess that she's already married, but then he's like, "Let's get married," and she's like,
wow.
"Sure."
No,
Like
I'm
she
not
had-
gonna say
well, you wouldn't
anything.
know that, Ethan, because you didn't know she was.
Yeah, I
married.
was like,
yeah, you
there's
didn't
a
know
moment where
what's
she's
going
like, "I gotta tell you something," and he's like, "Let's just do it tonight."
Oh, I thought she was gonna confess something like, "Actually, I told my son to murder this kid." Just like, I don't know. I didn't know if there was any more secrets. So that's it. Okay.
Oh yeah, I also killed that guy that they found outside of our dance.
Yeah,
studio.
maybe she's gonna say that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's super happy. Comes home and everything's dark. And she checks Helen's room, but it's all like smashed up inside. Like she just clearly Helen had a tantrum in there.
She clearly just murdered Star.
Maybe murdered that guy. I don't know. And the window's left open, so she goes and shuts the window, and she goes into the kitchen.
And before she goes in the kitchen, just for Mike, the magazine that Adele shows Helen, where she's like, "Here's what my type is. Your type's this." That is ripped in half.
Oh shit!
Oh, interesting.
That was she was showing the magazine right before the haircut, and then like all that stuff was happening.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So she goes and there's blood all over the kitchen, like blood
all over the kitchen,
like on the ground.
The rabbits.
So she follows the blood. She goes down the steps to the backyard.
Oh no!
The blood on the banister. Goes to the rabbits. Looks in the rabbits. Every single one of them had their throats.
There's like a dramatic black like shawl.
Yes, there's a blanket,
and it's like billowing in the wind, and it's very dramatic.
Oh
and
my
she
god!
rips it off, and it's like, and it's all scary. And then suddenly, like Hamilton did, Helen is there behind her and is like, she's also covered in blood.
Yeah.
And she says, "I couldn't leave my poor little creatures, can I?" And I'm like, all right, she's full broken at this point.
Something's the matter with her. I'll tell you.
Something's
I literally
really
wrote, "She's nuts."
Yeah. And then she says, "I had to leave Lenny's father just the same." And she's like, "Are you saying that you
fucking knew
is
it?"
You saying Adele's like, "Are you saying that you killed your husband?" She's like, "I don't believe you." She's like, "Well, if you love them and you can't leave them, you just have to release them." And damn it, I did kill him. I did it. I pushed him down the stairs again. I think that's her like signature move.
Wait,
in front of the plow.
Oh, was it from
like,
the plow?
there's no way.
I don't know why I heard it was stairs for some reason. I
Pushed him in front of the plow, but it mirrors the pushing down the stairs.
I think I think I just inserted stairs in my head because I was like,
because you didn't know what the plow was
why
about.
The fuck, what's that mean in front of a plow? It's like,
she must have been stairs.
She must have been stairs. Of course, I've seen her do that. She would do it again.
See, I assumed that she scared the horses. Like that. I didn't assume that she did that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So let's see. So then she's like, okay, Adele's just kind of trying to put in the, emergency mode, and it's just like, okay, well, I'm gonna go call Sister Alma and like let her know
she's
everything's
like, you need
forgiven.
to confess. You need to tell as many people on live radio what just happened as much as quick as possible.
Yeah, you could, I feel like this has been eating at you, so they go into the house. I don't know. By the way, also, there's like a dead bunny just in the house. For some reason, it wasn't there the first shot, but they definitely see it in the second shot. And I was
they didn't want to reveal it. They didn't want to reveal it at that point.
I like the idea that there was also a blanket over this bunny, and Helen's like, oh, she's going to the scene, and she rips the blanket off this one and then goes downstairs to meet. Like, she's just being very dramatic. She's learned lessons, Of
course.
So Helen's starting to feel better. She seems to be doing okay. She's like, okay, I'll confess. And Adele's going to the phone to call someone. She's like, who are you calling? And Adele's like, I'm going to call Link because he's going to go and he's going to help the boys get out of jail, and we're going to get married, and you'll confess everything and get forgiveness. And this triggers Helen.
Oh, she comes at her.
She goes into hell mode, is what I say.
Hell mode.
Stabs her in the back.
Stabs the shit out of her multiple times. Just absolutely murders Adele.
Whoa, really?
To the point that my boyfriend goes, oh! Like, he was like...
It's a lot. It's very quick. I think they did some editing around it because it used to be more horrific. That was another thing that they had to cut down. They wanted it to be like the scene in Psycho, but it might have been too much.
Yeah, that's what I read too. They really wanted that scene to be like have the impact of Psycho.
Yeah. Psycho's also in black and white, so probably seeing like color, like that
color
sort
blood,
of thing.
all that red paint. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. But then the police arrive.
That's it. And then that's it.
That's kind of what you see. But then you see a guy coming to the door. He's the police. He's a detective, and he knocks on the door. And you're like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? And Helen, of course, answers. And the detective's like, hi, can I come in? And she's like, yeah, you can come in. He's like, is Adele home? This may concern her as well. And she's like, no, she's out at the moment. And so they sit down, and he says, do you mind looking at this photo I have here? And he shows a photo of the man that was pushed down the stairs.
Right.
And she's like, no, I don't recognize him. And she's like, and the detective says, well, we're asking you because like you knew Ellie Banner, right? He was her lover. I don't know who Ellie Banner is. Can anyone explain who Ellie Banner is?
No. The only thing that I got from this moment is she just is denying that she doesn't know anyone who's called, like, because he brings up phone calls too, and
Yeah.
she's like, we haven't got any phone calls, but I don't know if I got
Is
that.
Ellie Banner the lady who got murdered by her sons?
Yes,
Maybe,
it is.
yes.
Okay.
It
That makes sense.
is.
Yeah.
So this is her lover,
I didn't
guess.
recognize that either.
Wow, fucking brilliant film.
So
So well written.
and then the detective was like, "Did you ever receive any like threatening phone calls at all?" And she's like, "Oh, no." It's like, "Well, okay, well, that's good because often they do because this is the man who was found outside your house. It looks like something befell him and you guys got lucky."
So it was him.
And so he's like, so Helen has this moment where she's like, in case the audience didn't get it, so are you saying that we were actually in danger of revenge from this guy? And he's like, yeah, I think there's evidence that he wanted to kill you. It sounds like he couldn't go after the kids because they were in jails, but he could have revenge on the moms. And so I think you've had a very lucky escape here, Helen. I think she's like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to tell Adele, like, I can't stand violence. It's unforgivable. That's what she says directly.
Wow.
And he's about to leave, and she asks if he wants a cup of coffee or anything. And I think this is just a moment for the audience to go, oh shit, is he going to take out the detective too? And he's just like, no, I'm good. And he leaves. And then Helen's so overjoyed, she goes, Adele, it was that man. And she runs upstairs. And then you get to the moment, the final moment. Link arrives back at the place.
He dropped her off, said, pack your things, I'll come back.
Exactly. Now he's going to pick her up because he's like, I'm going to go marry this lady.
Yeah.
He goes and to check on Adele, and he notices that the window upstairs is open. He's like, that's weird. He lets himself in after no one answers after knocking.
The stuff is blowing in the wind.
Yeah, billowing. You got to have your billowing curtains.
Dramatic.
It's just very dramatic.
Yeah.
And then you hear piano music. It's Helen playing Goody Goody.
Oh yeah,
on
that's
the
what
piano.
Adele was singing that when she was drunk. She was like, goody goody. When you said she was singing something, I was like, I can't remember the song she's singing. It's that song.
Yeah. And then Link shows up and sees Helen playing and says, like, where's Adele? And Helen says, my partner's not quite finished yet with our recital yet. And then the camera pans over and Link sees that Adele has been tied up, propped up on the ladder in her dance outfit. And I think she stabbed
the Americana outfit,
and just it zooms in really close, blood dripping down her lips. And Helen just keeps playing, and this zooms in on her face slowly as she's playing this music, and she starts laughing manically, and then the movie ends.
Wow.
Oh my God, it's incredible because it's set up in the way she was setting up the recital, where Adele was like, "We're gonna do a big theater." The wind is blowing, balloons are flowing, and you see her on the stage on like a ladder, and she has like rope that's tied around her, so she looks like she's mid dance move, and she's all blue with like blood, and it's the fucking close up of Shelly Winters. She's just on the piano like just looking like crazy, and it zooms in and blacks out. It's incredible.
Oh,
yeah, it's amazing. It's a fun, and like it's predictable, but it's also like good. You know, they did it really well.
It's predictable, but like Shelly does something beautiful with this. I'm honestly shocked that Adele died. I was not expecting that.
So I got to tell something. I don't know if you saw this too, honey, when you were researching this, but apparently people were like, the reception of this movie was like, it's good, we like it. The problem is the marketing was one of the worst marketing ever. Literally, the cover of the poster of everywhere, this is what I saw when I was looking the movie up, is Adele in that final shot, strung up dead, and Shelly with a knife being like, ah! And it's like, what are you doing? It's
you gave everything away. Yeah.
So I'm glad you didn't see that coming.
Even in the trailer, they show the dead body like in one point. It's very like obvious because it's like blue.
That's like fucking like Psycho having Norman Bates dressed like his mom on the poster.
Yeah,
like, you gave away like the biggest part of the movie.
And I think this was actually a catalyst of people being like, okay, marketing folks.
Yeah.
We're never doing that
Spoiler
again.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoilers are a thing now.
That sucks. Because I saw the really low like rating, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like this movie very much. I enjoyed it a lot. Like it was a weird film. Like there's a lot of weird shit in it, but I really enjoyed
strange.
it.
It's so strange.
Weird.
And I discovered it because my friend showed it to me because they aired it on Turner Classic Movies.
Oh, that's
and he
awesome.
was like, he recorded it and was like, you need to watch this because you can't. This is not shown. And the first time I watched it, I was like, what is happening? Because the whole movie, I'm like, what is going on? And I was like, it's because in my head, it was going to be like Who's Afraid of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? Who's Afraid of Joel?
Yeah.
Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? And it was like, oh, it's gonna be like a confession, and then whatever. But it was like, no, it's like this weird pseudo-sexual lesbian like murder
psychodrama.
Like she loves her so
with
much,
like
now
little
she's-
kids
and
dancing.
that goes back to what I was saying about what my thing is, that I think the movie has a motif is of dolls and what we were talking about, like Little Women, sexualizing like these women of Shirley Temple, and like Debbie Reynolds has dolls on her bed. There's like zoom in of dolls. There's and at the end, Debbie Reynolds becomes a doll for Helen. She's now has possession of her. Do I think it's successful? No. But I think that's what he was going through with the movie. It's
definitely doing a doll to women being, objects sort of
including
thing.
the moment of like, hey, there's a little woman. And
Right.
she's, a little woman, a physical like doll. And like, that's what Adele becomes to Helen, is this possession.
I think that's why I'm so drawn to this film, is like there are things going on in it that are like strange and sometimes like unanswered or like make you feel uncomfortable. And like this could have easily just been a really cheap, like, let's get fucking Shelly Winters just gonna fucking scream for an hour and a half and then she'll fucking kill somebody and we'll put blood on the walls. Like, could have easily been that. And in moments it is. But there's also other moments like the little person, or like the very uncomfortable scenes with the little girls dancing, and it's like,
I would cut that part out, to be honest.
I would cut out the part with the sexualized little girl, but like just the fact that like the movie is about a girl or a woman who is teaching little girls to dance, and also it's about a murder. Like, I don't know,
it's fun.
It's cool. It's a really cool, and like the fact that I also read that like Debbie Reynolds like literally like saw the script and was like, I have enough money to just make this. Like, this script is weird. I want to make this. Like, I'm and it's like, if like I'm imagining that with like somebody her age now that was like, she's primarily known for like being a singer and a dancer, being in like really upbeat, musical numbers and stuff, just taking a big fucking swing and going like, yeah, I'm gonna play a weird, like strange woman who like compartmentalizes murder and death and my son, and I'm gonna play next to like one of the greatest like character actors, like two-time Academy Award winner.
They were good friends, and like the one story that cracks me up is they were saying, she was having a nervous breakdown, and like one day on her way to set, she just saw a woman on the side of the road in her like nightgown, and it was Shelly Winters trying to get to work or something like that.
Yeah.
Having a
She was
nervous
late.
breakdown.
To be fair, she's basically in costume already, so
That's true. That's true.
Like
Well,
I am right
she just
now.
has to put on her hair creations, and then she'll be.
I love the word
she's
hair
in costume.
creations.
But I don't know. I really enjoyed this movie. I was not. I was just expecting it to be more like, and I liked Auntie Roo as well, but I was expecting it to be more like that, where it's just like, let's just fucking be crazy and weird. But no, it was like interesting and thoughtful and interesting and uncomfortable. In a way that I like from film.
I can't believe they churned out this and Auntie Roo in the same year.
In the same year.
Auntie Roo is its own like weird thing of a movie where it's like it's Hansel and Gretel, but
Yeah.
and then the woman isn't really evil. She's just, once again, she's traumatized. She has some sort of trauma. And like they're like, we finished Auntie Roo. Let's do what's the matter with Helen. Like, let's go on.
Do we even know if it's successful or not? I don't know. Start shooting. Let's go.
Well, and honestly, that's actually a good point too, because it goes to show the strength of like Shelly Winters. Because like in Auntie Roo, she also plays a person who is going through a lot, going through some kind of mental breakdown. But in that
Also
movie,
a
she's
child,
like,
yeah.
right. But in that movie, she's like domineering and like mean and cruel and like overbearing. And in this, she's like meek and pathetic and quiet. And it's like the fact that those are made in the same year, she's really like kind of like dressing the same as well, but it's like very different characters. It's like that's the strength of her as an actor, is like she can really transform the role. I really liked it.
I'm so happy you can say that, because that's what this whole season is about.
That's right.
The
That's
Winter
the reason
Wonderland.
for the season.
Yeah, reason for the season. Let's be honest. And thank you for bringing all these movies to us. We really do
Yeah.
appreciate our recommendations. It's been a really enlightening experience, I think, for both of us.
Oh, very much so. I have learned to appreciate Shelly Winters.
I mean, as I said, I see the Shelley Winter Wonderland being a yearly thing. She has a ton of movies.
That's true.
That's true. You can go back and just like fucking pick and choose, and know that this woman didn't say no to anything.
No. Yeah, I honestly want to do this.
Maybe
again.
she should have said no. Maybe her mental health would have been better if she said no to a couple of things. I
Like,
don't
she
know.
should have said no to what?
You should have said no in general, just a couple of them, maybe to save her sanity.
her mental health. Yeah. Yeah. But thanks again for doing this, honeybees. Would you like to? You recommended all these great Shelly Winters movies. Would you also like to recommend anything that people can find you online if they enjoyed you on the podcast?
www.shellywinterssuperfan.com. Not the honeybees.
GeoCities.
Yeah, not the honeybees is my Twitch handle. So, not the honeybees, but you can call me honey. I stream twice a week usually, and then sometimes we talk about Broadway. I mean,
A lot of times talking about Broadway.
you know,
Yeah.
I wish there were clips of her. She also did around this time a musical called Minnie's Boys about the mother of the Marx Brothers that only
Okay.
ran like
Oh.
70 performances, and it's like all about just the mother who raised the Marx Brothers
And abused them.
possibly
Probably.
And it was like a whole, once again, another like up and down, like she was very insecure and blah blah blah, she missed performances, but there are no clips because the show was a flop, and I would love to
course.
share that with the world, but I might look it up after this and see if there is something out there.
And yeah, and if that sounds exciting, and it is, check out Honeybees on Twitch. you have a little puppet as well. It's
Carol
great.
Channing. Do you know?
Carol Channing shows up sometimes. It
Yeah.
is.
Occasionally, yeah.
Fantastic.
I literally when I push go live on Twitch, I literally say to myself, "Give me the power of Shelly Winters." I go.
That's what we.
That's
do
why you're
for
so
Farming
mean to
Podcast.
your viewers. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Yeah. We find them out in a nightgown, or just like, you need to be on Twitch.
I think your stream was now. Where are you?
But yeah, thank you again so much for coming on a podcast. If you guys liked this episode and want to listen to previous Shelly Winters episodes, find them on any podcatching app. And while you're there, leave a 5-star rating and review. We will in the show, no matter what it says, even if we go through a mental breakdown while reading them. And yeah, thanks again so much for being on the pod, honey.
Thank you for having me. It's honestly,
course.
I've waited 2 years for this moment. I hope it's worth it. I hope I'm like waiting for like a day or two from now to Ethan be like, "You're too much. We had to cut you.
So
we
this-
edited around it."
Turns out you're actually we made it so it's just me and Mike talking the whole time. We
Yeah,
decided it wouldn't work.
no.
Exactly. There's a moment
We
where there's
didn't
like
Don't bother sending us your audio.
Yeah.
It's not gonna.
I kid.
No, but thank you again so much, Eddie. And yeah, and see you next year for another Winter's Wonderland, everybody. Good night.
What's the matter with Helen?